If we look at the pro card for Fight for It 14 coming up February 18th, Spartanburg, South Carolina, we want to pay attention to the main event. There's a reason why you put a certain fight as your main event. So we want to pay attention to Tanner Saraceno versus Cubb Hawkins. That's the main event. Now, on the surface, when you look at this fight, Hawkins is coming in undefeated in MMA, but he only has 2 fights. And he's undefeated in bare-knuckle boxing. When we look at that main card, this level of a main event, or the main card for the pros anyway, is outstanding. And what stands out is that each fighter comes from a UFC team or a UFC coach has helped them recently. Saraceno comes from Revolution down in South Carolina, and Cubb Hawkins is trained with Pure Vita, and they have a fighter by the name of Montel Quick Jackson, who's in the UFC. And when you have this type of level amongst all these men coming back to the local scene, you're basically looking at UFC level cards. You're basically looking at the next generation of UFC fighters. And I keep bringing up the UFC because they're still number one. Bellator, One Championship, Rising, they're all fantastic. I watched them all. There still is a difference when it comes to the level and output of UFC fighters. Now, I will say this. Some of the other things those other shows do, like with the kickboxing and the grappling, okay, they stand out. But right now, when it comes to pure mixed martial art format, the UFC is still number one. So let's take a look at Saraceno versus Hawkins. As stated, the biggest difference in this fight is the experience, but it's not as meaningful as one might think. This fight comes down to an application of will and making the other man fight his fight. Saraceno has fought higher level competition overall. And his last fight was a 3rd round stoppage of a UFC veteran at ex-MMA. Hawkins has access to higher level training consistently, because he's training with guys in the UFC. Hawkins has shown some incredible improvement in his composure and energy management since competing in bare-knuckle boxing. And I say that because I was watching some of his last MMA fights, and he seemed to win early, seemed to lose his conditioning a little early, but something's happened over the last year where he's gained his composure. He's a little bit better now. And I think, bare knuckle boxing where you can break your hand or get knocked out in 30 seconds, I think that's helped him. He came in originally as a wrestler, so we'll see if he can put it together into the MMA. Bring that composure, maintain things where it's a striking range, he should do fine. He can't. It's Saraceno's night. But this fight comes down to the durability of Saraceno and the power of Hawkins. So we can expect to see Saraceno, who's more experienced, well-traveled. He's going to take his time and try to draw Hawkins into that deep end of the talent pool because he's seen better talent. And we can expect Tanner to also punish the shorter Hawkins with repeated leg kicks. He has excellent leg kicks. And if I'm 6'1", taking on someone who's 5'9", I'm leg kicking him half to death. And especially you want to do more leg kicks when taking on a wrestler because it's a lot safer than chasing the body kick or the head kick. But don't be surprised to see Hawkins go into gut check mode. And I think he finds it more appealing to go out on his shield rather than to give up. And Hawkins, despite the height, despite the size, despite the experience shortages, he won't be short on raw courage. Sometimes what happens is because he's from Milwaukee, when you're the outsider to an area, it gives you more drive, gives you something to fight for, because you're the outsider. You're not at home and you're coming here to be the spoiler. So expect Hawkins to play the role of the spoiler as he sours the mood of Tanner Saraceno. He's going to spoil his mood at Fight for It 14. The way Hawkins gets it done is to keep that composure, bring that fire. Saraceno's just got to do the opposite. He's got to keep it at range, stay calm, chop that leg up. Nothing crazy. I don't think this is the fight for him to get crazy, to mix things up. Just too much power coming from one side. Think about it like this. This guy's fighting bare knuckle and he's knocking people out in the first round. Do you think he's going to hit harder with MMA gloves on or softer? I say he hits harder. But that's the main event. That's how both guys win. The shorter fighters got to get on the inside, make it a boxing match, make it about the power. And Saraceno's got to stay on the outside and, chop, 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 chop. I am Coach Sess, and you've had worse, the Mad Coach.